Heard of the Umbrella Corporation? They're a pharmaceutical company secretly making bioweapons. They have a virus. It turns people into indestructible monsters.
That explains the horrible things I've seen.
It's been 21 years since the sequel to the classic PS1 game Resident Evil was released. Immeasurable amounts of retro gamers have very fond memories of plopping onto their couch, turning on their CRT TVs, and being thoroughly creeped out by the hideous zombies and monsters released onto the world by the Umbrella Corporation. Capcom has been churning out some good and not so good Resident Evil games since then, finally going back to their roots with the amazing Resident Evil 7. The Resident Evil 2 Remake takes advantage of all the technological advancements made since its original release. Updated graphics, audio, visual fidelity, as well as adding new elements made everyone who had ever enjoyed the game originally extremely excited. But how does it hold up on its own for someone who has never played through the original game, such as myself? Now, I haven't been living under a rock. I know of and have lightly messed around with the PS1 era Resident Evil games. However, the one thing that completely took any enjoyment away from those games for me were the horrible tank controls. Luckily, they are no more, with Capcom opting instead to adopt the third-person view that they had used from Resident Evil 4 and on. This changes the way that even the most experienced Resident Evil player will play the game. The change from pre-rendered backgrounds and quick camera cuts to full 3D movability adds accessibility and familiarity for a newer generation of gamers. While this change does help the game become easier to pick up, it also introduces its new flaws. Just as in the original, the low-level zombies that roam the levels are slow-moving. This used to create suspense when you would turn a corner and see a zombie horde walking slowly towards you. It's a sudden change in mechanics to go from exploring down a hallway to a defensive position where you have to think on your feet and dispose of the enemy. With the control changes, however, your character is much more agile and quick, and can see further distances ahead, almost eliminating any of the moments of sheer surprise and panic. In a worst-case scenario, I found myself taking a pacifist route and avoiding most of the standard zombies just by running out of their reach for most of the first half of the game. When the time comes, however, that you must engage, the weapons provided do pack a punch, and the technology uptick of over 2 decades makes blowing a zombie in half with a shotgun that much more intense. The boss battles are right up there as the more tense moments of the game, as they should be, and genuinely put you on edge as you attempt to figure out how to defeat them. Item boxes are available to store extra ammo, herbs, items, and whatnot every time you need to save your game, which is a nice element and introduces a more strategic element to the game as item slots in your inventory are both valuable and limited. It's a smart gameplay choice that makes the player think about what they might face ahead and what they are going to have to leave behind. The visuals of the game look amazing and have really benefited from the Resident Evil 7 engine, which the game utilizes beautifully. All of the gore and ambience from the original have transferred over amazingly well and really set the right visual tone for a survival horror game. Both Claire and Leon look amazing, and the world in which they are in utilizes lighting techniques that weren't available at the original's release, and add to the "did I just see something in that corner" type of uneasiness. The audio design is also top-notch. The lack of real background music through most of the game accentuate the surrounding sounds in a way that never lets you put your guard down. Walking down a dark hallway with just a flashlight and the sound of your feet on the creaking wood floor is a genuinely spooky feeling. Hearing the tyrant's footprints approaching and getting louder and louder, knowing he is hunting you down, are some of the best moments in the game when they happen. The voice acting, however, for the 2 leads is horrifically bad. Now, this would make sense had they simply brought the audio over from a game that's 20 years old. However, this was completely reworked and re-recorded with new voice actors. While there isn't much dialogue from the characters at all throughout the game, what dialogue is there is definitely lacking.
It's too late. I tried, Leon, but I couldn't stop it.
The puzzles were another issue. While some of the puzzles are pretty standard, you need this key to open this door, some of them just don't make much sense in any context. This happens more than once in the game and literally forced me to look at a guide, as I felt I was going in circles in certain areas. In the end, it took roughly 6 hours to play through Leon's story. Although if I had taken the time to do all of the optional saves, develop all the rolls of film, and other things, I would have spent probably around 8 to 9 hours altogether. I enjoyed my playthrough despite some of the issues mentioned before, and to be clear, my issues were mostly chalked up to personal opinion and don't affect the game at any real level. I highly recommend both old and new gamers give the game a try, because like me, you'll probably like it a lot. the Resident Evil 2 Remake gets an 8 out of 10.